What is going on, everyone? This is Miles with Windows Central Gaming, and welcome to the 49th episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today, I am stoked to be joined for the first time in a long time, the original co-host of Xbox Chaturdays, and my partner in crime over at Windows Central, Mr. Jez Corden. How are you doing on this fine Saturday, my dude?
Hello, friend. Your energy is very much needed today. I'm a bit sleepy, and then after this, I've got Xbox 2 straight away. So double podcast day today. I'm doing another podcast tomorrow as well. So podcast city this weekend. Celebrate the end of the year of what has been a pretty good year for Xbox.
It really has. I'm happy I got Rand on last week to do back to back, and now I get Jez Corden on this week to go back to back. That's what you guys get for pushing your show to Saturdays. Okay, that's a little punishment. You got to run the gauntlet if you're moving your show. All right. Yeah, so we have a pretty awesome show today. We're going to be talking about PlayStation rolling out its own subscription service called Spartacus. We're going to be talking about some shakeups at EA. We're going to be talking about Xbox Game Pass finishing the year incredibly strong. Jez Corden's newfound love of Dark Souls, and so much more. So much more. But before we get into all of that, and I'm sure everyone here already knows the legend, the man, the myth, the legend, Jez Corden. But for the lovely folks that don't, give us a quick breakdown of who you are and where people can find you.
Well, I'm Jez Corden of WindowsCentral.com. Built our gaming platform over at Windows Central back when we were called Windows Phone Central many years ago. And you can find me on Twitter at Jez Corden and occasionally here on this YouTube channel when I find time to make a video, which isn't that often these days. But I do next year. I feel like I say this every quarter. Like I want to make more videos this quarter. I want to make more videos this quarter, and it just doesn't happen. So I never have any free time, and it takes a long time to make a half decent video. So yeah, that's me. That's me, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
my
happy. Yeah,
pal, my
yeah. Jez, for those of you who don't know, Jez is kind of the reason I work at Windows Central. I applied for a completely unrelated Pokemon writing position for Future PLC, the parent company of Windows Central. Jez kind of saw on my resume that I had some video experience, and then reached out and said, "Hey, you want to dabble with some social content for Windows Central Gaming?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's give it a go. Let's dabble here and see what happens." And look at me now. Now I'm the host of Xbox Chaturdays or Windows Central. So yeah, pretty funny story. Obviously stoked to have you on. Obviously we work together a lot. Something I've been doing recently, Jez, to kind of give people a peek into the tastes of Jez Corden, is I ask my guests to pick their 3 favorite video games and or video game franchises. So I'm going to play a little game with you here, Jez. So first and foremost, what are your 3? What are the 3 most important games or franchises in Jez Corden's eyes?
It's weird because like I've got games that have had a big impact on me, like World of Warcraft, for example. Played World of Warcraft for 10,000 hours. It's taken up a huge chunk of my life. But the way it's sort of fallen to pieces in the last few years, it's kind of slipped out of my favorite games of all time now. So my favorite games kind of evolve. But there are a few games that are sort of staple. Top 3 franchises, probably Fallout franchise. I love that franchise. I got hundreds of hours in that franchise. Dragon Age franchise. Got hundreds of hours in the Dragon Age franchise as well. And probably Mass Effect as well as another franchise that's had a huge impact on me. But, you know, it's another sort of franchise like World of Warcraft that's sort of like not doing so great lately. So I don't know.
All right, well
My,
here's
my
where things
tastes
get
evolve, I think.
fun with this, Jez. So what I'm going to have you do with those 3 is I want you to pick one of those 3 franchises that doesn't exist. It is gone from the universe forever. I want you to take another one of those picks, and I want it to exist in this universe, but everyone else in the world except Jez Corden gets to play it. What does that list look
Wow,
like to
that's
you?
an interesting question. Well, I think the game that I'd let everyone else play is probably Mass Effect. I think like Mass Effect's a super important franchise and stuff, and it's affected the industry in multiple ways. But I've played it once and experienced it, and I've played it many, many times repeatedly, and I'd be happy to let that lie, I think. Um, and the franchise that I just eliminate from existence, did you say?
Yeah, it's gone. Nobody gets to play it. Nobody gets to play. It's never even existed.
Wow, that's hard, man. Between Dragon Age and Fallout, probably Fallout, honestly. A, because Wasteland exists, which
Oh,
is
okay. There we go.
basically Fallout. And B, because Dragon Age is just I just love Dragon Age Origins. Like it's my perfect game, Dragon Age Origins. I talk about it a lot, but I wish EA was better so we could have more Dragon Age games that were good.
Ooh,
But
we'll be talking more about EA very shortly. Don't you worry. I'll give you plenty of time to rant about EA, but thank you for humoring me. Thank you for playing this game. It's interesting when you start talking about the things you love the most, and then you have to imagine a world without it, or a world where you don't get to play it. So thank you.
yeah.
I'm gonna give a quick shout out to the 155 people rocking with us already. If you are new to the show and watching live, hit that like button, share it out, feed the YouTube algorithm. If you're watching on the recently added audio podcast services, make sure you subscribe, make sure you rate the show, all that fun stuff. Housekeeping before we get into the show topics today. This is episode 49 of Xbox Chaturdays, which means next week's episode is the Big 50, episode 50. 50 episodes. It's wild to me that we are getting close to 50 episodes of this show. It really does not seem like it's been going on that long at all. I wanted to make sure episode 50 was a special one. So I have a really cool, really special guest for episode 50. So if you're an Xbox fan, if you're looking for some kind of unique perspectives into the video game industry, I would recommend you tune in next week, because it's gonna be a ton of fun, and I'm stoked. I'm feeling really good, really excited about this guest. So, Jez, the first topic we got to dive into is a kind of developing story from Bloomberg. Jason Schreier over there kind of broke this report that PlayStation is looking to remodel its subscription services. This project Spartacus, as it will, is basically a merger of PlayStation Plus and PS Now. This report also states that it's probably going to keep the PlayStation Plus branding, but is going to offer 3 tiers. And one of those tiers might even include retro titles, PS1, PS2, and PS3. So there's been a lot of articles, as you've seen. There's been a lot of conversations on Twitter as to, is PlayStation offering an Xbox Game Pass competitor, a legitimate Xbox Game Pass competitor? So I have a couple of questions for you regarding this topic. Does this combination of PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus excite you? Would this be a service you would subscribe to?
Yeah, it would be. And they have like a unique hook in the whole nostalgia thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if they do manage to get like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 games in the cloud, as a sort of streaming emulation service, that's a pure win. Like there's no doubt about it. It also gives them some differentiation from Xbox, because Xbox just doesn't have such a deep well of nostalgia to tap into, unlike PlayStation. I think PlayStation has a much bigger nostalgia aspect to their platform, and like we all know Nintendo banks heavily on nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
I think on the Xbox 2 podcast, I called Nintendo a drug dealer, and the drug they peddle is nostalgia.
Oh, give me a hit.
So,
Give me a hit.
yeah. So I think that's going to be great for them, and it's it's like a lot of people could be like, well, they're late to the game and stuff like that, but not really, because the thing that really matters in this space is content, and we all know PlayStation nails content.
Mm-hmm.
Look how late to the game Disney came with Disney Plus, and I think they stormed to 100 million users in a year.
Uh-huh.
So content is king when it comes to these services, and PlayStation certainly has content now. Though I actually heard about this a while ago. It's been an industry rumor for a long time, just didn't have like the concrete stuff down. And I've talked about an Xbox 2 in the past. I think me and Rand have hinted about it. We talked about how we thoroughly expect Sony will copy Game Pass one to one in the future, uh, including day one releases for their AAA titles. Although that's not rumored at the moment, there have been people inside PlayStation pushing for that, executives and stuff. And there's a lot of differences of opinion about whether that's going to be a good thing for them or not. But it's working out pretty well for Microsoft right now. So we'll have to see how it goes. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I have a PS5. I'm subscribed to PS Plus, but even though PS Now has been around longer than Xbox Game Pass, it's really failed to communicate what it is to a widespread audience. And I think at this point, being 4, maybe close to 5 years in with PS Now, they're realizing that they have to rebrand it. PlayStation Now as the service, it needs a rebrand. It needs a fresh kind of relaunch. And I think that's what this is, at least initially. One thing that I've kind of forgot is that Xbox Game Pass, when it launched, it didn't launch with a day and date exclusive. It launched in June, and then we didn't get the first day and date Xbox exclusive until Sea of Thieves dropped in March of the following year. So there was a period of time where there was this service that had a great catalog of Xbox 360 and Xbox One games, but they didn't really start doing the day and date until 6 months following launch. So there's been a lot of conversations, asking whether or not PlayStation will copy Game Pass one-to-one. I think the smart move long term is absolutely that. I don't know if initially PlayStation would commit to every single one of their biggest games day one, day and date, but I cannot imagine a world where we go another year where they're not at least dabbling. Maybe it's not God of War. Maybe your God of War game, your Spider-Man 2 doesn't launch day and date, but maybe some smaller scale PlayStation exclusive launch day and date in the service to test the waters, because PlayStation is not as, quite frankly, dumb as a lot of the internet makes them seem when it comes to the streaming game and what they need to do to have a successful streaming service. There's so much data that shows if you want to get people to subscribe to your service, you have to have the big exclusives tied to that. That's why, like you said, Disney Plus exploded. Disney Plus, on top of its nostalgia that it can pull from, Disney was making sure it had a bunch of huge Mandalorian, one of the biggest shows of the last year, exclusive to Disney Plus. Everyone's talking about it. You're getting people to sign up for Mandalorian. I would say that a huge percentage of people sign up for Disney Plus exclusively for The Mandalorian. So PlayStation knows that. They're not going to ignore that. And if they do, that is just, that would be wild to me. It would be absolutely wild if PlayStation completely ignored every other successful streaming service and said, we're doing this because we're doing our own thing. That's some kind of old school Nintendo mentality where we know it's successful, but that's not us. We're not gonna take that approach because we are doing something different.
Yeah, it's there are a number of constraints with regards to PlayStation Now, for example, and there are constraints that Microsoft's experiencing as well. I don't know if you saw recently, but Xbox Cloud Gaming actually had queues recently,
Oh
and
wow!
that's on Azure,
Oh
which is a
wow!
huge global server platform. Yeah, Xbox Cloud Gaming had queues probably because of had the 1-2 punch of Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon, and especially Forza Horizon, because Forza Horizon plays pretty well on the cloud, versus a shooter. And in countries like Brazil, as using an example, countries like Brazil where the tax on electronics is really high, services like Xbox Cloud Gaming are seeing a huge amount of usage, and and that costs servers, and servers need chips, much like consoles. And the chip shortage is actually constraining Xbox Cloud Gaming as well. So for Sony to also go down this route, they're also constrained by the chip shortage, and at the same time, it's kind of like, well, if they can't get silicon to manufacture PS5s to meet demand on that, are they going to be using that silicon to make cloud servers for PS5 games? My guess is no. But what they can do is get easier to obtain silicon to power PS1, PS2, PS3 games potentially, and sort of come at it from a different angle while the sort of the chip supply chain works itself out a bit. So Sony's in a pretty good place with regards to PlayStation Now, in that they are constrained by the amount of servers they have, and they are constrained by the amount of silicon they can get their hands on for like the high end stuff. But they do have a huge amount of nostalgic content that they can bank on, and they can sort of build it up that way in the early days to get its name out there and stuff. I mean, you'll notice that Microsoft isn't really marketing Xbox cloud gaming. It's because they're barely meeting demand on servers for cloud gaming as well. And they call it a beta because it is still technically in beta. And they're not marketing it really because it's constrained as well. So I think like the industry at large is still working out what their cloud platforms look like, especially for gaming. Stadia has been a pretty spectacular failure with regards to their own content, and so Stadia is looking to make it sort of like a third party thing where they can package it up and sell it to other companies and say like make your own cloud service because we don't know how to do it. And so, and they're probably constrained by silicon as well. So I don't think Sony needs to rush this. They can experiment with it. They can experiment with old games like I think for example, the Uncharted collection, what do they call it? The Drake collection or something?
Is it the Nathan Drake collection? I forget. It's
Yeah,
something like that.
That appeared on Steam recently. I don't know if it's been formally announced or not. Maybe it has. I don't know. But also we know we're getting like Horizon and we're getting God of War on PC, and they've been dabbling with some of their classic content on PC. They'll dabble with their classic content on the cloud as well, but I don't think they need to put the pedal to the metal to compete with cloud, because xCloud, Microsoft, that is, because Microsoft's constrained, and they can catch up relatively easily, probably on the back of all their nostalgia and stuff. But what it does present, and which is pretty awesome, is serious competition for xCloud into the future, because it shows that Microsoft can't be complacent, because Sony does have the content to compete with Microsoft's server superiority, and that's what matters at the end of the day. It's content. If all the technology matches up, if PlayStation Now does become as speedy as xCloud, then the thing that matters is the content, and Sony arguably still has a head start in that space. But
yeah,
the next few years are going to be really interesting.
We've seen Xbox in this phase of understanding that they have a content gap and working hard, acquiring studios, making acquisitions, investing heavily into these teams to make sure that they have not only one project in the works, most of these teams have multiple projects in the works. So they understand that they have to fill this content gap. A lot of people have said on Twitter that this wouldn't be a legit competitor to Xbox Game Pass without day and date services. But you bring up an interesting point. If this is planned to launch in spring, I think, like you said, maybe not going pedal to the metal, but saying, hey, like let's mirror what Nintendo's doing with this nostalgia. If you sign up for this service, you get a massive catalog of PS1 and PS2 games that you can stream to your PlayStation for 1 month, low monthly subscription cost, and basically ditching the PlayStation Now branding, because PlayStation Plus has a ton of goodwill. PlayStation Plus as a brand is exciting. It's sexy. You associate PlayStation Plus with these big games month to month. Xbox Gold, you don't. Xbox Gold is not sexy. Xbox Game Pass is sexy. So if they ditch PlayStation Now, bundle that into PlayStation Plus, and basically make it seem like they're just adding a bunch of optional tiers to PlayStation Plus, I think that will be very successful out of the gate, even if we're not getting day and date immediately. But like you said, if they are trying to integrate the cloud in a meaningful way, there are chip shortages, and that means they're not really going to be able to invest as heavily. We saw Xbox basically allocate a lot of their launch resources of the Series X and S to make sure their server blades were upgraded. That was a huge investment from them. I don't think PlayStation is going to do that immediately with all these shortages. But if they can rebrand this service, make it slightly more enticing with some of these legacy titles to kind of get people looking at it more seriously and looking at PlayStation as someone who offers this, I think that's going to set them up down the road. So again, maybe it'll be like, Xbox Game Pass. It launches, it's got a library, and then 6 to 8 months later, we get that first big, hey, here's one of our games launching straight in the service, and here's what you can kind of expect from us moving forward. I think that would be a very interesting development in the subscription wars that are going to be happening now, because, like I said, PlayStation isn't dumb. they understand what a successful subscription service, a lot of S's there, requires. So yeah, it's gonna get interesting, Jez.
Yeah. Out of all the cloud competitors like Luna, Amazon Luna, and Stadia, and
Oh yeah,
God
Luna,
knows
I
what else.
forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You forgot about it. PlayStation is by far the scariest for Microsoft, because they've got the content. Amazon Luna and Stadia, they're going to be playing catch up on content forever. Like Stadia, like has nothing. Like there's
Hmm.
there's basically nothing to play in Stadia except Destiny and a bunch of old games. Like they can't compete with Forza. They can't compete with Halo. They just can't.
It's
And but Sony makes a lot of games that would translate well to cloud, like third-person single-player games. God of War. I played God of War on PlayStation Now last year on PC, and it was played fine, played great. And I was just like, this game works really well on PC, on cloud streaming, and it'll work really well on phone, like much like Hellblade does now. If you check out Hellblade, it's got a bunch of contextual touch controls and stuff like that. Sony can catch up really quickly on some of that stuff. Um, by the way, there's someone popping off fireworks randomly in the background. I have no, I have no idea
that's
what event it is
festive.
going on.
That's
But yeah,
I haven't noticed it, but I do appreciate the festivities.
it's I was just hoping the mic isn't picking it up or something, because there's just someone like popping off fireworks in my neighborhood for some reason. No idea why, but
Hey,
whatever.
sometimes you don't
And
need a
you
reason to
can see
blow
the
some stuff
rain.
up.
Yeah, it's pissing it down with rain right now, and someone's outside having a fireworks party in the rain for some reason.
Dude, let's celebrate that individual, all right? That's the energy we need more of in this world right now, Rain or shine, I'm going out and I'm lighting some fireworks off. I don't care what day it is. There's no holiday. I'm just here. I'm just here to have a good time. Before we move off this topic, one last question for you, Jez. If PlayStation is dead set on never doing day and date releases for their biggest exclusives, will this subscription service still be a legitimate competitor to something like Xbox Game Pass for Xbox?
It will, because of the nostalgia and stuff like that. They've got a huge back catalog of really great games that I'd love to play again. Um, they could do deals for like Metal Gear Solid 1, which you can't really play anywhere now unless you pirate it with an emulator or a ROM or something. Luckily, I've still got my PlayStation 1 copy of Metal Gear Solid 1 and a working PlayStation 1 somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'd have to like whip it out and set it up and buy one of them. I don't think my TV even has a SCART socket for the TV connection. But a lot of those classic games that were on PlayStation 1, Sony owns the rights to, in some capacity. And there are a lot of companies out there who own the rights to some of these games. So they'd be like, yeah, we'd like to make a bit of extra cash. Slap Bloody Raw 1, 2, and 3 on PlayStation Now, and I'll subscribe straight away, man.
You
You
give
remember
me
Bloody Raw, right?
Bloody Roar, Ape Escape, Parasite Eve. You give me those, and
Parasite Eve? It's like bloody
yeah,
classic.
ooh,
Yeah,
you make that because the
don't
problem
say
is
that about Xbox.
PlayStation Now has a lot of retro games that you can stream, but the problem is PlayStation Now's marketing has been so terrible that people don't know what it is. The average person who doesn't own a PlayStation doesn't know what PlayStation Now is, and that's just the reality of the service, and they've been struggling with that branding. PlayStation Plus, the average person who doesn't have a PlayStation knows what PlayStation Plus is. So again, I think a rebrand, even if it is carrying over some of this legacy content and advertising that we are going to have, legacy content coming to this service consistently, I think that would be exciting. Like we saw with Nintendo Switch Online and the Nintendo 64, the Super Nintendo, a lot of outrage, outcry, for the pricing models, all that stuff. But outside of that, there are a lot of people who are like, I just like these games and I'm going to pay whatever Nintendo is charging for these games. And
Yeah.
PlayStation has the potential to do that. They have just fumbled the marketing of PlayStation Now beyond repair. And I think that's why they're just ditching PlayStation Now as a brand entirely.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting to think about, because like one thing Microsoft doesn't offer right now is a cloud-only subscription tier. Like, I don't think I would subscribe to PlayStation Plus unless it offered that. Um, and for people who are in these countries like Brazil and India. Well, xCloud isn't even in India yet, which is another symptom of the silicon shortage right now. India will be a huge market for xCloud. It will be a
Mm-hmm.
massive market because the cost of consoles and electronics in India is huge, but there's like millions of gamers in India. Then that's why like games like PUBG Mobile are really really big in India, and I feel like Forza would be huge in India as well if they could get xCloud running there.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's silicon and getting their hands on those server blades and the infrastructure and stuff like that. And but for those markets, you need a cloud only version because there are a lot of people playing for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and with that you get Xbox Live Gold, you get Xbox Live Console, Xbox Game Pass for console, and Xbox Game Pass for PC. When really all you want to play is on your phone. I think Microsoft really needs to look at that too, especially if Sony offers competition in that area, because Xbox Game Pass is not very flexible on its tiers right now. So there's a lot of ways Sony could like beat Microsoft that it's at their own game here, and the competition will be good for Xbox owners too. So
Yeah,
it's really
and
interesting.
it's exciting. Yeah, the idea of PlayStation, stepping up and reevaluating its subscription service is exciting. Because PlayStation, like we've talked about, has a great library of games. Will continue to have amazing games, and if they can, push Xbox and Xbox can push back, there's going to be this incentive for both of these companies to do better. And generally speaking, that means we get either better games or we get a better value, which, as someone who owns all three consoles, it gets expensive, dude. Having all of these subscription services, buying all these games. I would love to live in a world where PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox just have this one ultimate tier for their games, and I can just get all of their first-party games day and date across the board. It would save me some money in the grand scheme of things. Will they all do it? I don't know. Maybe not. But I'm here for it. If they all want to step into the Thunderdome and duke it out over subscription services, let's go. Paramount Plus, Jez, they're getting close. They're whittling me down day by day because every time I want to watch something, oh, what would you look at that? Paramount Plus has it. I'm like, dude, the Halo TV series. The new Halloween Kills was on Paramount Plus. South Park, the new South Park special. All these things. I'm like, dude, Paramount, stop. I don't want your service. Stop. But eventually,
I'm lucky 'cause we just don't get it here. No Paramount Plus here, so I don't even have to make that decision.
so they're gonna break me down, and that's gonna be the strategy I hope with PlayStation is eventually they're gonna break me down and be like, you know what? I just need it. I just need it. I'm gonna give a quick shout out to the 281 people hanging with us for Xbox Chaturdays today. If you dudes are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out, all that good stuff. I'm gonna get to a ton of super chats because you guys have been dumping them in hot and heavy. Appreciate all of you. First up is Mr. Joanna Dark, who says, "Let's go, episode 49. I'm excited for today's show. Jez and Miles are a power couple." Like Kanye and Kim K and Jay-Z and Beyonce. So are we getting divorced then, Jez? Is that what he's implying? Because if you've been following the news, that's where they're at.
Who? Who is this?
Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. You should know all about this.
They're divorcing, right?
Yeah, you're big into keeping up with the Kardashians. You should be all over this, dude.
No. Isn't the show cancelled now? I'm like several seasons behind. It's like it's the show I watch when I don't want to think.
Just turn the brain off.
Yeah, some people meditate or some people read a book to like sort of relax their brain. I watch vacuous TV shows which require zero brain cells to process, and there is nothing more vacuous than keeping up with the Kardashians.
Super chat from Brian Hopkins, who says, "Oh yeah, another fun-filled Chatterday, and it's got the triumphant return of Jez. Let's get after it. Yeah, let's get after it." All right, Silver Siwa, love you guys. What do you think about Avowed and Hellblade 2 at the Game Award? All right, Jez, this has been a hot conversation for I feel like months now. Is Hellblade 2 being shown at the Game Awards, and is Avowed being shown at the Game Awards in your eyes?
I mean, I said before that I'd heard they were going to show Hellblade 2 off before the end of the year. That is literally from internal communications that was said. I've said it before. We posted it on Windows Central. and the only logical place where they'd show that is the Game Awards, and so I would say Hellblade 2 is a lock. I didn't hear anything about Avowed on that note, but um, Jeff Grubb is rarely wrong. So, and I think that Avowed information comes from Jeff, right?
Yeah, he was based. So Jeff Grubb got information that suggested that Avowed potentially was going to be shown at E3, that they were ready to show Avowed for E3, but there was a decision to announce the Outer Worlds 2 instead. So they basically prepared something to show for Avowed, and then last minute they're like, no, we're going to show the Outer Worlds 2. And they're like, okay, cool, that's fine, whatever. So from Jeff Grubb, that's the understanding, is there was something to show at E3, and that he is speculating, I assume, that because of that they would have something to show for the Game Awards for Avowed.
Okay. Well, I wrote on Windows Central that I've seen gameplay for both Avowed and the Outer Worlds. I didn't post the gameplay because I don't want people running rampant with, oh my god, look at the graphics, when there's no lighting implemented, or there's no textures implemented and stuff like that. So I just saw like early pre-alpha footage of both games, and I think I said in the write up that Avowed kind of reminded me of the Outer Worlds, but Skyrim. So the Outer Worlds Skyrim is how I'm
Yeah.
thinking of Avowed right now, which is fine in my book, right? It's not the hugest team in the world working on Avowed. I think it's something off the top of my head, it's something like 120-ish people. I can't remember exactly how many people's working on it, but it's not like the hundreds of people that work on some of the AAA games out there. Obviously, there'll be support studios probably helping them out on some stuff, but it looked really good, looked really solid, reactive gameplay, lots of physics mayhem, crazy spells, all the stuff from the CGI trailer, like doing the signs and stuff. Enemies from Pillars of Eternity showing up left, right, and center. So Pillars of Eternity fans, this for Pillars of Eternity fans, this is like the transition from Fallout 2 to Fallout 3 for you. I suppose,
Yeah.
like it's that transition from 2D to 3D kind of. Although Pillars was kind of 3D, you know what I mean? It's transition from isometric to 3D.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A third-person action game. Yeah, it looked really good. I'm really, really excited for Avowed. I think the fans, if anyone listening enjoyed the Outer Worlds, you're probably going to enjoy Avowed too, I think. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be shown off, because the gameplay that I did see from the summer, the pre-alpha footage, it looked rock solid. There were things that, like I said, that didn't seem to be fully implemented, like lighting and stuff like that. But some of the environments they showed off were absolutely gorgeous. I think the landscapes, I think it's called the Living Lands, off the top of my head again. Don't have any notes to hand, but the Living Lands are in the Pillars of Eternity lore. And the area they showed off was like, very green, verdant forests, ancient temples, Zorip reptile dudes running all over the place, and plenty of spells, archery, banditry, stabbing people in the back, sword and shield, two-handed swords, kicking people down, ragdoll physics all over the place. It looked really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no idea on the story layout of Avowed, if it's going to be full blown continuous open world. I think there are hints in job vacancies that it is going to be full blown open world with continuous, like how the Outer Worlds are sort of hub based, sort of like mini open worlds that were connected together with linear sections. I don't know if it's going to be like that, or if it is going to be full blown open world, but I guess the Game Awards will find out if everything pans out as expected.
Yeah, I mean, Obsidian is one of the most consistent and efficient modern development studios. We look at titles like Grounded, which, when you compare that to a lot of the other kind of open world survival games, that project is so tight, so well designed, so polished, even in game preview, and that's 11 people. So when you say you got 120 people at Obsidian working on a project, that's exciting. If they can use 11 people to make Grounded, I'm excited to see what they can do with 120. And I think regardless of where we see Hellblade 2 and Avowed, the next time we see it, I have to imagine it's gameplay. At this point, especially with Hellblade, I can't imagine that Xbox shows us yet another CG trailer for Hellblade at this point, because we've gotten CG trailers, we've gotten the development deep dives, we've gotten some kind of like concept art spun into a trailer. So I have to imagine the next time that they come out and show that game, it's going to be a big deal. And again, they revealed the Xbox Series X and Hellblade at the Game Awards. So they like having those big splashes there, and that would be one of them.
Yeah. It's really interesting thinking about what Hellblade 2 is going to look like, because Hellblade 1 was very much it was a walking simulator with like a few
Yeah,
combat segments. It was pretty much a walking simulator. It was almost like a proof of concept for like a bigger universe. I feel like, although it's a work of art at the same time, it's like it's a stunning game, and like if you play it with headphones, there's like no experience like it. It's the sound design in that game is award winning for good reason. Um, but the way I've seen Hellblade 2 described internally is an 1,000-mile trek across medieval Iceland. That to me suggests a much bigger ambition for a game. So if it's like, and they've sort of hinted in some of their developer vlogs and stuff that they're laser scanning Iceland's topography to
yeah.
make the game from satellite footage. You don't need to laser scan the entirety of Iceland unless you're going to be able to physically go there. So to me, that suggests a much broader scope of a game, open world maybe, uh, you know, in that kind of vein. I would hope that, like, it's really exciting to think about where that could take Hellblade 2, especially given the ending of Hellblade 1, which I won't spoil because, if you are interested in Hellblade, you should definitely go and play Hellblade 1 if you haven't already. It's not a super long game. I think you can be finished in, what, maybe 3 or 4 hours ish, something like
Yeah, I
that.
would say 6 hours on the higher side of things. It's a pretty
Yeah.
tight experience.
Yeah, it's a very story driven experience with like lots of like lore about the world and the sort of the belief systems of Norse mythology and Pictish mythology. What little we know about it, because like the Picts are sort of like a lot of what we know about the Picts came via the lens of Roman historians, which weren't the kindest in depicting the countries they were invading. So,
Had to justify the
so
slaughter of all these different people. So,
yeah, the savage Brittonic people, as Romans viewed the ancient Britons and the Picts and stuff. So, yeah, it's a special game, and even the brief combat segments that were in Hellblade, I thought were really cool and really well done.
mhm.
Like the amount of motion capture in them, and Hellblade knows combat because they made DMC, which isn't the most beloved entry in the franchise, but the combat was on point. I thought, at least.
Yeah, Ninja Theory
Yeah.
has done an amazing job throughout the years. Enslaved people love Enslaved for its traversal, for its combat. DMC again, even if you thought the main character was a little on the edgy side, combat stellar, boss fights incredible, super flashy combat, and so the idea of having a more, I guess, action oriented version of Hellblade is super exciting because Hellblade, for what it was a remarkable indie title. Super small team doing something very experimental, touching on mental health, trying to have this heavy, dark fantasy story that touches on real themes that persist in the modern world. So I want to see them further experiment with those ideas, and I want to see them further experiment with the gameplay, with the exploration. And it sounds like, from everything we've seen and everything they've talked about, it's going to be that. It's going to be Hellblade just blown up in this huge scale, and then having this bigger emphasis on the kind of moment to moment gameplay as opposed to the walking simulator, as you mentioned. Because again, I love Hellblade 2. If you haven't played it, go play. It's Xbox Series X and S enhanced now, but it got very repetitive with the puzzles. It was like this walking sim where you'd walk to a puzzle, you do the puzzle, you'd walk to a fight, you do the fight. When you were doing the fights, some of those fights are incredible, and the world design was consistently impressive. But there wasn't a lot to it in terms of gameplay, and I think that was my biggest complaint with the original Hellblade. Still beautiful, still a fantastic indie game, but like you said, it felt like a proof of concept for something greater, and I'm hoping that this delivers on that proof of concept. Some more super chats here. Mr. Joanna Dark, do you think Project Spartacus emulates Amazon Luna in offering an a la carte BC games from devs? Example, the Square Collection channel. So I haven't really dabbled with Amazon Luna at all, if I'm being totally honest. Have you browsed its store, browsed any of those features?
It's not available outside the US, so I
Oh,
haven't
okay.
been able to. So,
Okay.
I think what he might be referring to is the fact that it's sort of the way Amazon Luna is structured, and chat can maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's structured like you pay for sort of channels of different publishers. So there's like a base tier where you get a certain amount of stuff, and there's like a Square Enix channel where you can pay a little bit extra and then
Mm,
you get Square Enix games. Sort of like almost like a cable TV setup where you sort of buy the channels of the
okay.
different games.
So,
Um,
like Amazon Prime is kind of set up like that now. Like you can add the HBO Max channel or these other subscription tiers and basically
oh right,
bundle that into your existing service.
I didn't know that either.
That would be an
But
interesting approach, I guess.
yeah, Sony could do it that way. Obviously, publishers I think will prefer it to be that way. It's interesting to think about because in a way, Microsoft has to sort of they have to sort of make the case that it's a good thing for their games to be on cloud beyond the money, because like they do, if it is a service game, they can get more microtransactions, and because access becomes easy with Xbox Game Pass, there's evidence that it provides free viral marketing for a game, and they often cite Sea of Thieves as an example of this. And Xbox, if it's a more, it seems to work specifically if it's a multiplayer game. It's a
Yeah.
multiplayer game and Xbox Game Pass. It provides some degree of viral marketing, which can even boost sales on other platforms like Steam and even on PlayStation, according to Microsoft. So I suppose like it'll be interesting to see how PlayStation decides to structure their version of it and how that sort of competition might end up impacting Xbox down the line. But we'll have to wait and see.
Exactly. We'll have to wait and see. Harji Chani says, like Xbox, will PlayStation have to deal with licensing for streaming or even downloading older games? Um, Shout out to the Iron Lords. They had Jason Ronald on, and they asked Jason Ronald about emulation, basically cloud-based emulation as a way to fill those gaps for streaming. So a lot of the licensing concerns in a lot of cases come down to, again, some of these publishers don't exist. There's technical limitations of running it on their backwards compatibility hardware that's built into the system. But emulation opens up more possibilities there. I imagine PlayStation will have to pay people if they put their game on the service. But I think when it comes to the technical limitations that we see with a lot of other titles, when it comes to the Xbox side, I think that will open up a lot of possibilities. And I mean, Jason Ronald didn't confirm anything, but he stated that Xbox was open to seeing what gaps they could fill through cloud-based emulation for some of these backwards compatible titles. So do you think there'll be struggles with PlayStation trying to get some of their legacy titles on a streaming service, on their own streaming service?
Potentially, it's hard to say. You can sort of get an idea of what games they'll have and what games they won't have, based on what backwards compatibility exists on their platform today. They do have some backwards compatibility with PS1 and PS2 games on the PlayStation Network, for PS4 and I suppose PS5. I want to say. Um, so you can sort of get an idea of what kind of games they can get there. Some are definitely more complex than others. Like if they've got like a license agreement for a PlayStation 1 game, for example, um, the language in those very old contracts doesn't necessarily cover future facing technologies. Like, for example, if we're talking about Sony having exclusivity for Metal Gear Solid 1, for example, there'll be nothing in that contract that talks about cloud gaming because it wasn't even a thing that anyone had imagined back then, I presume. Um, or maybe Bill Gates or someone like that. But I highly doubt the contract for Metal Gear Solid 1 on PlayStation 1 covers cloud gaming. So then it becomes a sort of matter of, um, does Sony just decide to sort of put it there anyway and sort of legalese around it somehow or something? It's the legal world's really, you know, complicated to say the least, and we have no idea because these contracts are under, lock and key. We have no idea the full scope of some of these deals. So it becomes like, I think you can assume every game they already have on PlayStation Network potentially to be covered by cloud licensing agreements. Um, but Microsoft is different when they approach the legal stuff because they are such a massive corporation and they are frequently the target of litigation because companies think Microsoft can afford to just pay us off and we'll make some money on the side. So Microsoft likes to have like rock solid contracts in place for these things, which is why we've never got MechWarrior and MechAssault on backwards compatibility because the legalese in those the contracts for the MechWarrior franchise, which Microsoft doesn't wholly own. They own the exclusive rights to publish games based on the MechWarrior IP, which is why that most recent MechWarrior game by Piranha Games has like franchise provided by Microsoft somewhere in the bottom text somewhere or in the credits. Microsoft licensed it out to them, but they don't seem to own the rights to put it on xCloud or backwards compatibility, which is really interesting. It's so it boils down to a sort of a whole web of complexity, and well, just again, it's another one of them. We just don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know. Sony could run into issues with certain games, like for example, Bloody Roar. We talked about earlier. The developer of Bloody Roar doesn't exist anymore. So who owns the IP to that? Like the company who published Blood Roar was Hudson, I think, or something like that. And I think they were bought by Konami or they were a subsidiary of
Something,
Konami or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, that sounds
It's
right.
really you get into these crazy complexities, so you just have to wait and see. They'll get what they can, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's why it was nice to have Xbox come out and say, like, we've done all we can realistically. Like, some of these games took years, like, just for the legal stuff. It wasn't even an issue of can we do it. It was we got to talk to so many people and jump through all these hoops. So, like you said, it is incredibly complicated and it's incredibly boring. And I'm glad I'm not a lawyer because a lot of that stuff does come down to old technicalities or sift. They were talking about sifting through literal physical documents in old warehouses that have probably just been dormant and stale for 20 years. They had to go find some piece of paper and be like, can we do this? Oh, okay, yeah, we can do this. So it's funny, it's weird, and again, like you said, a lot of this stuff they weren't forward thinking when they were releasing PS1 games. They weren't envisioning a world where you can take out your phone and play Metal Gear Solid 1 on your phone. That was not in anyone's brain in any capacity. And now that's just the expectation for a lot of us in this day and age. So it's interesting and we'll see how it all plays out, but I'm sure there will be hurdles for some of those titles for sure. Supernova with another super chat says, "Hey Miles, hey Jez. Since we're close to the Game Awards, and will Avowed and Hellblade 2 be at the show? Will it be inside engine or just CGI? Hashtag Jez for 2024." Yeah, so we covered this. Is there any possibility in your eyes, Jez, that they would do another CGI trailer for Hellblade or Avowed?
Like there's potential, but I have heard that Microsoft is sort of they are sensitive to the fact that people don't like CGI after you've done it once. It's okay to like announce a game with CGI or tease a game with CGI, but I think like two times is kind of pushing it. Didn't they say that Hellblade 2's reveal was in-engine footage though? Didn't they say that?
It had a splash screen. Correct me if I'm wrong, or chat, correct us if we're wrong, but I'm like 99% sure there was a splash screen on the trailer that said in engine. Maybe even
Yeah,
running on the Xbox Series X. Maybe I'm just filling that gap in, but I
I
feel
don't
like it
know.
was quote unquote in engine.
Yeah, it's
Massive quotes,
I think
but
yeah. Like maybe they'll show us like cutscene or highly choreographed in-engine footage that looks like it's sort of like CGI or whatever. Um, but if that Hellblade reveal truly was in-engine, that's like insane. right?
I remember
So
being blown away because I do distinctly remember seeing in engine, and sure it was I think 24 FPS or something, but still like the fidelity of what they showed with that initial reveal. If the final product is anywhere close to that, especially if it is this sprawling Iceland setting, and if they did set that expectation of this is in engine, they're going to need to make sure that if they do show gameplay, that it is looking absolutely perfect, because people are going to bust out those magnifying glasses, Jez. They're going to zoom in 200 times, be like, what is this? World's most powerful console, my ass.
yeah, that's it. That's the world they have to navigate, though, isn't it?
It really is.
I hope they do show. If Hellblade has like gameplay that's good enough to show off, everyone prefers to see gameplay, right?
Yeah,
I'd much
it's
prefer
fun.
to see gameplay footage. I want to see Senoweb slicing trolls' arms off and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want to see that stuff.
That's,
So
mm,
you know,
mm.
um, but and Avowed, like I say, I've seen Avowed gameplay. I've seen it with my own eyes. I have it sitting right here on my desktop with a folder with 2 leak emojis on it. So it's they have this footage. They can. It should be in a place where they can show Avowed and hopefully Hellblade 2 gameplay, even if it's brief, even if it's just like a minute 30 long or less, minute long. They will have a slice to show. But I find like as we, I don't know, as game development gets more complicated and more complicated, it feels like having like a gameplay slice, a beefy gameplay slice, like what we used to get in the 360 era. Like I remember, like when Fallout 3 was shown off, they showed off like a CGI with the radio one year, and then the next year Todd came back with like a 20-minute long narrated presentation of everything you could do in Fallout 3. And I love Todd Howard's presentation so much. Like there's nothing more hype building than like seeing it in action narrated by someone like Todd. So, you know, I would hope they have at least some gameplay to show. But those things seem to be getting increasingly rare, and we have no
Mhm.
idea when Hellblade's launch window is even. Like it maybe it's further out than people think. Maybe like because Ninja Theory have had a whole new studio built from the ground up,
Yeah, like a
constructed.
straight up building. Like this is
Yeah,
not just a new team, but a straight building. No.
yeah, they had to like they've moved their entire studio to a new building. So like there's probably been a lot of disruption, and factoring COVID as well, and all the
Mhm.
crazy stuff that's been going on in the UK. So I want to believe, Miles, that it's gameplay we're going to see, but I'll take anything at this point.
Yeah,
Give me anything.
just I always joke about how many times I watched the initial Hellblade 2 reveal. And it's wild that just that little taste of that universe was something I just kept coming back to over and over and over. And again, like I just want more, even if it's something similar to that, even if it's maybe not straight up action gameplay, but maybe if it's just like an in-engine cutscene from the game giving me more of a taste of the story in this world, I'll take it. I'm a desperate man. I'll take anything I can get, Jez. All right, just give me a little taste of that Hellblade. The Dutch Rudder says, do you think Spartacus is where Sony debuts its cloud partnership with Microsoft? Also, is PS1/PS2 back compat only going to be locked behind the paywall? Haven't they already announced the Azure partnership? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that PlayStation already came out and said that they would be working with Microsoft on servers. I don't really think it's anything beyond
Yeah,
that.
I mean it was really vague. It was really a weird announcement. Like they were like, "Yeah, we're partnering with Microsoft for cloud technology," and it's like, "Yeah, but on what?"
Exactly. Yeah. What does
We don't
that
know.
mean?
We don't know what they're doing. Like, he's like, I don't know, the mysteriously absent Left 4 Dead 2 multiplayer mode running on Azure. What are they going to
Last
use
of
this
Us 2?
PlayStation? No, Last of Us 2. What did I say?
Left 4 Dead 2.
Left 4 Dead 2. I'm tired. Yeah, Last of Us 2, the multiplayer, like that is something that is that still happening even? The multiplayer?
It
There was gonna
sounded
be a
yeah,
multiplayer for that,
yeah,
right?
it hasn't officially been canceled. I think the scope of it is just bigger than maybe they're anticipating. It's going to be like Cyberpunk's multiplayer where it'll come randomly, like years after we forgot that it was a thing. I'm like, "Yo, guess what? It's here." I'm like, "Oh, damn. You did
I've
pr- you did
completely forgot they were working on multiplayer for Cyberpunk. I didn't know.
exactly, and that's what they want. They want people to just forget like we're working on it in the background and then boom, here it is. Here it is. After the world has moved on, they will drop it and it'll be a thing. And hopefully, they're both worth the wait. Because yeah, Last of Us 2 is supposed to have a. Again, this is all rumor, but it's supposed to be a pretty like impressive online offering. So we'll see what that means.
Intriguing. But yeah, we have no idea what exactly they're going to be working on with Microsoft with regards to cloud, and I presume they'll probably keep it quite secretive because they don't want to be seen as like relying on who is essentially their biggest competitor in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we never actually hear concrete details on what that partnership means, if
Yeah.
it means anything at all. That was a super weird press release.
It was so cryptic, but yeah, it's part of the world we live in. You got to understand at a certain point that somebody does something better, and it's just easier to partner with them and shell out the money to make it happen. And
I
then
think Microsoft was eager. Sorry, I just want to say, like, I think Microsoft was eager to showcase that partnership to sort of say, like, we're all in this industry together. Yeah, we
yeah,
compete with each other, but we don't hate each other like the console fanboys would hope they do.
Yeah, they would hope that
I,
Phil Spencer
yeah,
spits on Jim Ryan's face and sets his car on fire.
yeah. I think that's where that came from more than anything. I think Sony was almost like it felt almost like Sony was just didn't want it out there.
Yeah,
They were like, yeah, we don't really
we
want
don't want to.
want
We
yeah,
don't
we
need.
don't.
We don't want to admit that we need help. Okay, we're strong. We're a strong, independent team, and we don't need help from anyone. And
Mm.
then in regards to the PS1, PS2 back compat, it sounds like, according to this report, that that would be the third tier of this. So likely, yes, it would be tied behind some sort of paywall for the back compat stuff because PlayStation has not hid the fact that they don't really their system was not designed for back compat natively, and that's why we don't see it because they like Xbox built emulation within their systems to make it happen. PlayStation hasn't been doing that, so I imagine back compat for the most part would be a cloud-based offering. Oh damn, there's some you guys crushing it with these super chats. Woo wee! All right. Okay, quick shout out to the almost 400 people rocking with us, hanging with
Wow.
us for this episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Appreciate y'all tuning in live. If you're watching after the fact, appreciate you listening. Hit that like button, share it out, follow the show, write the review. We're still new to the audio version, so I got to figure out my pitch there. But yeah, feed iTunes algorithm, however you do that. And let's get to a few more super chats here. Harjit Chani, I kind of disagree with the assertion that old games from PS1/PS2 will make a dent. PS Now already has PS3 and PS2 games. It's still a joke. The need to have new games day and date to compete. And we kind of touched on this a little bit. I think Jez and I are kind of on the same page here, but I think people underestimate the power of nostalgia. And if you throw in some legacy PS1 games, advertise some legacy PS1 games, tie that into PlayStation Plus, which is already a successful service, I think at least initially that will make a dent. And then long term,
I think
I hope they do day and date. But
yeah, I think like I think it's right to say that like it won't make a huge dent because you know people our age, yeah, we can talk about Bloody Raw, Parasite Eve, Metal
yeah,
Gear Solid 1. But the new generation of gamers, the gamers spending all their pocket money on V-Bucks and all the sort of, the people who are driving this free-to-play revolution, whatever, they're youngsters and they've never heard of Metal Gear Solid 1. They've never heard of Parasite Eve. And they
no, they're gonna look at
certainly,
that and go, "Lol, this game sucks, dude."
yeah, look at these graphics. Look at these PlayStation 1 graphics. Like, yeah, so I think it's right to say that it won't make a huge dent. But I think it will make it dominate the sort of the news cycle with a big PlayStation Now banner, and it'd be like, a lot of these older YouTubers and older writers and older podcasters are like, yeah, we're really hyped to play Metal Gear Solid 1, or really hyped to play Shadow Hearts again. You know, shout out to any Shadow Hearts fans out there. They'll be talking about it on YouTube and stuff, and then it'll be like underneath, it'll be like, oh, by the way, you can also play, I don't know, X modern game on there that everyone wants to play now. So I think it's a good hook, but they're to reel it in. I think you're right. I think they do need day and day exclusives in there, and we'll have to wait and see if they do follow through on that.
Yeah. Brian Hopkins says, did my dude Miles the Goat Dompier get nominated or invited to the Game Awards? Will we get to see you dressed to the nines in a week? Cheers, man. No, I've no emails so far, so I'm gonna go ahead and say no.
Awards.
It's December 9th, my birthday, actually. And Jeff couldn't even hook it up with an invite. Cancel Jeff Keighley, am I right? Beast Mode says, what acquisitions should make Xbox Game Pass have a deeper library? Should Xbox collaborate with AMD and Nvidia for PC server blades to augment the Series X blades only? Okay, what acquisitions should Xbox Game Pass make to have a deeper library, Jez? Real quick, give me one. If they're stacking the library, what's the easiest way to do it?
Paradox.
Just filling that library with all the Paradox games.
I mean, Paradox. There's already a load of Paradox games on Xbox Game Pass, but I think like Paradox is one of those. PC is a huge area of growth for them. For those who don't know, Paradox make games like Stellaris, Europa Universalis. A lot of these games, like console players, have never even heard of, probably. But they are massive on PC. They get constantly updated with huge content patches and stuff. If you want to get and Stellaris has like $700 worth of DLC or something ridiculous, or one of these games, like one of these older games, like Europa Universalis 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know. Like some of these games have like hundreds of dollars worth of DLC. If you can get all of that in Game Pass instead of shelling out or waiting for a Steam sale, because they do drop pretty hard during Steam sales, they could get like the entire Paradox audience in Game Pass. That'd be like a huge amount of people. And it would also be hopefully a lot cheaper potentially than buying out a studio like Activision or EA or something like that. But I think Paradox would be huge for a huge engagement play. But yeah, there's like loads of studios you could mention. Like that, I think Paradox is potentially more realistic than EA or Activision. But maybe Take-Two is approaching to the point where they will be looking for a buyer, because what the hell does Take-Two even do anymore? They just make short card things that they just do GTA Online. Like what does Take-Two do except for that, and like a reskin of NBA every year? Like,
oh yeah, we're gonna.
I do feel like they're spinning in the wind.
Yeah, we'll rant about Take-Two for sure, because Take-Two did something worth mentioning this week, especially in the light of everything going on in the industry. For me, I'll say it once, or I've said it once, and I'll say it 100 times. If Xbox could do it and they wanted to stack Game Pass in just a huge way, Capcom's the get. Capcom is the get if they want to stack Game Pass with a bunch of legacy content and a steady flow of new exciting content. Capcom, baby.
Oh, man.
That's
Breath of Fire would be so good on xCloud mobile game.
You have Breath of Fire, you have all the Mega Mans, you have Resident Evil, you have Monster Hunter, you have Devil May Cry. The Capcom library would, having all of that in Game Pass, I'd pay $10 a month just for that. Just for Capcom's library, if I'm being honest. So, well, is it realistic? I don't know, probably not. But if I'm Phil, I'm picking up that phone every day and I'm calling Capcom, be like, "What's up? We lighting this candle, dude. We doing this. We making the dream team come true." But
Capcom would be a dream. It would be an absolute dream. Like I just say, it's just too unrealistic.
Yeah, like I said,
it's like one of those things that you want to happen that just won't.
Yeah,
you know.
But yeah, and then the AMD to basically augment the Series X server blades. I don't see them doing that personally, but what's your take on that?
Oh, with like what's it called? Is it Super FX or something? It's their sort of their NVIDIA, man. I
Because
can't
yeah,
remember all the terms. It's their like resolution upscaling technology.
oh,
For
because there's
AMD.
super resolution and then there's that's AMD's, right? Super resolution.
Yeah, so isn't it called Super FX on AMD?
Yeah,
And then what's
yeah,
it called on DLSS on
yeah,
NVIDIA? I don't
yep,
know.
exactly. Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about that. I think they were still evaluating the technology last time I asked someone. Um, I'll have to dig into that, so bear with. But I presume one of the things they are focusing on with xCloud is making it number one. So, like right now, Microsoft regards NVIDIA GeForce as their North Star for beating. NVIDIA GeForce now has the best latency and the best picture quality on the platform. Like, and Microsoft is like the latency's gotten a lot better right recently,
Mm-hmm.
and they also added this new clarity mode, which does like improves the algorithm for like pixelization because like the way the video encodes, it feeds you like a pixelated image, and then it like tries to use AI to make it look more clear. Nvidia is the leader in that space right now. So maybe Microsoft does leverage AMD technology for that, or maybe they do it in house because they'd have to license that from AMD potentially, and it might be cheaper for Microsoft to develop their own system for it. But you know, they announced that clarity boost for xCloud recently, and it
Mm-hmm.
does seem to have improved things a lot. I played Scarlet Nexus on my Galaxy Fold the other day, and I was like, man, this is almost native now. It's crazy. Still looks a bit rough on console right now, but it's improving all the time. It's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Next three super chats here, just nice ones. Aaron J94 says Jez looks 10 out of 10. Next one from Jason Johnson says join late. Jez looking like a snack and a half.
Thank you.
Darge Knight says, great show, guys. Couple of sexy faces on my TV. I love it. Okay, here's an important question, and this is one I've been harassing Rand a lot about. Archie Chani says, Jez, are you going to convince Rand to go on camera? I've been trying to get Rand for the face reveal on Xbox Chaturdays for months and months, but so far he won't budge. He won't budge, Jez.
I don't know. I do pester Rand about that sometimes. I think like with Rand, one of the issues is that like some of the people in his house don't necessarily respect the fact that he's live podcasting. So like if he's like on camera and stuff, and someone just randomly decides to come into the room, that's kind of annoying, right? So maybe it means like Rand needs to get his own place or something before that happens. I don't know, but um, it's something we always talk about and something we want to do. We always want to like evolve the podcast, so we'll have to wait and see. I actually one of the main motivators for losing weight for me was so I could go on camera because like when I was in January, I was 410 pounds, I think, in January, which is pretty big, and I'm not very tall, I'm like 5'8", so 400 pounds, 5'8", pretty big, and I've lost 100 pounds so far this year. And one of the motivators was, to go on camera because I was getting invited to podcasts. So I was like, man, I just hate the way I looked on camera, and now I don't so much. So,
Well, I'm
it's
stoked. I'm
hard
proud of
making
you,
it
dude.
work.
I've been along for your
Thanks,
weight
bro.
loss journey, seen the updates, and yeah, it's been awesome to see you get out on camera, and it's exciting. So yeah, it would be cool to see Brand and Jez together on camera, and maybe one day that'll happen. But yeah, again, I'm stoked. Again, we got to be on Unlocked together recently, and you were on camera for that, and that was awesome. That was a really cool moment. So I'm glad
Cool, yeah.
we got to get out there as the Windows Central Dream Team and just do it and just get our faces out there.
Yep.
I'm gonna get to one more super chat, and then we are gonna move on to the next topic here. Harji Chani says, "Happy early birthday, Miles." Oh, thank you. Okay, Jez, we got to talk about Take-Two. You brought up Take-Two and what the hell are they doing recently? And what the hell are they doing is right, because this week they filed a trademark claim they sent a trademark claim to the game It Takes Two. And so Take-Two, the company, is saying, hey, guess what, Hazelight Games? Your game's name is too similar to our company's name, so we don't want you to use that. It's unclear how this will impact marketing of the game or future sales. They are not saying that Hazelight cannot use the name It Takes Two, but they have formally sent a trademark claim, which is going to complicate everything about that game's name moving forward. If they want to make t-shirts, if they want to make merchandise, there's going to be this conflict of interest looming over It Takes Two, which is nominated for Game of the Year right now. So this independent developer comes out, they get nominated for Game of the Year with this incredible title, one of my favorite titles of the year. Take-Two says, hey, sorry, that is way too close to our name. We don't want you to use it. And this is just another example of a big giant corporate machine flexing its weight, flexing its wealth, and leveraging technicalities to basically spitefully punish this development team is what this feels like to me. In my eyes, there's no real world where It Takes Two negatively impacts the brand of Take-Two. In fact, I think if people did confuse It Takes Two with Take-Two, it would only add a positive spin on an overwhelmingly negatively perceived company. So, if Hazelight tries to fight this, Jez, do you think they'll win? Do you think there's any world where Hazelight takes a stand and says, we are keeping this and you can screw off, and they succeed? Is that a possibility?
I think we need the gaming lawyer on the show to get a true read on this, I think, because litigation and trademark disputes and all that stuff, it's really complicated, and I'm not a lawyer.
Yep.
So I don't
Neither one of us are lawyers.
Yeah, I think Hoeg Law on, I probably pronounced his name wrong, and I apologize for that, but Hoeg Law on YouTube dives into gaming litigation topics a lot, and you should definitely check out his channel. It's a really good show. But I will say that I do know that people who own trademarks, they are sort of required by law to protect them. Because if they own a trademark and there are situations like this and they don't protect it, they run the risk of losing their trademark. So while it might seem like, if it might seem like sort of big asshole publisher punching down at an indie dev, there is actually like a legal reason why they would do this. Like for example, recently, not long ago, Microsoft has sent similar things to companies who use the Office brand, for certain things in the past, and it's not so much like we feel threatened by It Takes Two. It's more like we have to show that we are willing to defend our trademark more so. And I'm the last person who would defend Take-Two. Trust me. I'm just being real here, and this is my understanding of that kind of thing. So, I don't know. We just have to wait and see how it plays out. But it does suck because Take-Two sucks, and It Takes Two doesn't suck, and you should go and play it.
Yeah, It Takes Two is a great game, and Take-Two is being consistently lame. So yeah, again, neither one of us are lawyers, so I don't know how it's going to play out, but it's just one of those examples where I feel like, maybe if this game wasn't nominated for Game of the Year, it wouldn't be this pressing thing that they would take immediate action against. But because there is publicity surrounding it, they feel the need to, again, protect that trademark. And then because it's in the gaming space, there's probably legal grounds for them to protect the trademark. Because I've seen people bring up, there are movies, there are songs, there are other pieces of media called It Takes Two, and Take-Two is not going after them because there's probably not this legal precedent that this is in the same industry. We are a video game industry. This is a video game. Whereas, you could argue that Take-Two is separated from music and movies, and that's why they can't pursue those other trademark claims. But again, boring technicalities for lawyers and not whatever we are. whatever we are. Okay. There's also been some other big industry shakeups this week. And one that I want to talk about that kind of, came out of nowhere is the fact that Vince Zampella is now in charge of Battlefield. The previous GM of DICE has stepped down to pursue other endeavors outside of EA, and now Vince, basically the golden child of EA, and Respawn Entertainment has been basically one of the biggest reasons EA has seen this resurgence with titles like, Jedi Fallen Order and Apex Legends being two standout huge titles for EA in recent years. How much can Vince handle, Jez? Do you think this is a good move, having Vince in charge of Battlefield in addition to everything else? Or do you think that this is going to make him in charge of Battlefield and they're going to have to kind of delegate someone else to handle the day-to-day for Respawn?
Well, I made a joke on Twitter that they should just make him CEO at this point. Because the only person at EA that seems to know what he's doing, frankly, at the executive level. EA's CEO just seems completely and utterly useless. So just make Vince CEO. Why
Yeah,
not?
let's give him one more role, one more thing for him to manage, one more thing for him to hopefully correct in EA's legacy. Just give him the whole company at this point, because I mean,
Yeah, give him the whole company. Screw it. But nah, it's interesting, but also kind of like obvious that Vince is a guy who knows how to make a good damn game. He made the Call of Duty franchise what it is. He made, Infinity Ward what it is, and unceremoniously split from Activision because Activision wouldn't pay the money that was owed, and they literally respawned and made a new company called Respawn, which is a reference to the fact that a bunch of Infinity Ward employees left Activision because Activision sucks, and they made a new company. But unfortunately, it wasn't Microsoft they joined after making Titanfall. It was EA, who I suppose offered them better everything because at the time Microsoft was running Xbox on a shoestring budget,
yeah,
and Phil had to like make the case for actually elevating Xbox to a growth platform that deserved more investment. Unfortunately, it was bad timing, and I think in today, as Xbox is today, I think it is Xbox that would have landed Respawn.
yeah.
But back then, when Xbox was under, I can't even remember his name now, the old Windows guy who's not even there at Microsoft anymore. I can't remember his name. Back in the day when Xbox was under Windows, it wasn't getting anywhere near as much money to do these kind of acquisitions. So, oh well. But that's another story for another time. Um, I think Battlefield is in a sort of a crisis area. I think
Yeah.
Battlefield 5 was it was all right, but it wasn't like I felt like it missed something that Battlefield 1 had. I don't know. I can't even put my finger on it really. I played Battlefield 5 quite a fair bit, but I played it nowhere near as much as I played Battlefield 1 or I played Battlefield 4, Um Battlefront 2 shit the bed, and that is entirely EA's fault because EA mandated those monetization systems,
Mm-hmm.
which ended up with like some of the worst PR ever for EA.
Led to
Um,
legal change in the industry is
yeah,
how bad
it
that
let
PR was.
yeah, that was a crazy scenario, and it's a shame because Battlefront 2 went on to be one of the best shooters I've played of the last gen. Frankly, the amount of content they added to Battlefront 2 was exemplary, and they really pushed hard to really make it what it is, and it was a really really good game. Battlefield 1 as well was a really amazing game, and I loved it. And then Battlefield 5 was like missing something, and a lot of the promises they'd made to the Battlefield community about what they were going to do with Battlefield 5, they didn't. There was loads of stuff missing from the game. Things that had been promised, like tank customization and stuff, I think was one of the things they wanted, which were in classic Battlefield games. And at some point, EA just abandoned the whole game and pivoted to Battlefield 2042, which has seen 70% of its player base drop the game already, which is not a few weeks after launch.
And,
Just to recap everything going on there.
and that was supposed
So
to be the big resurgence. Battlefield 2042 was marketed so heavily to recapture the Battlefield moments. All the reasons people love the franchise were advertised,
yeah,
were sold when they were promoting Battlefield 2042. and then it comes out, and again, it's not the first kind of rocky launch we've seen for a major multiplayer game. It's definitely not the worst multiplayer launch we've seen in recent history, but I think it really hurt a lot of the momentum that that game had going into the launch, because I remember being excited about it. I remember seeing the Battlefield 2042 reveal and then the following gameplay trailer and thinking to myself, this looks fun. Like, this looks like Battlefield 4. This looks like something I will spend hours and hours playing with friends. And then it dropped and I played it for 2 days and I was like, I just don't care. Like, I don't care to come. I'll come back to this
Doesn't
maybe 6 months when it's maybe working, but I don't even know if I'll ever come back to Battlefield 2042.
It's not even the bugs for me.
No,
It's gameplay changes they've made, which are designed for monetization. Like, nobody ever asked for heroes or operators in Battlefield. Nobody asked for this. Literally nobody. The only people who asked for operators and skins and hero characters in Battlefield is EA executives and their shareholder consortiums. Because, as we saw last week, some of the Santa Claus skins
it
for
looked
some of the
like
operators
Sylvester Stallone dressed as Santa Claus. And
it was
why?
just horrible. It was just horrible. And it exists for one reason only, and that's to gouge money out of people. And, people say, yeah, you can ignore them, but the problem with the operators is they hurt the gameplay flow. Like, I don't know if the guy next to me is a medic or not anymore, because he might not have a medic crate equipped. He might have an ammo crate equipped. Like, snipers with ammo crates and rocket launchers now, because you can just do anything. You can Call of Duty your gameplay in Battlefield. And at first, I was kind of like, it's kind of cool. Like, you can, play the way you want to play. But the more I played it, the more I realized I don't want Call of Duty in Battlefield. I want Battlefield in Battlefield. And the fact that it's no longer team based at all ruined the whole game for me. And I didn't realize it initially, but the more I played it, the more I realized the soul had been ripped out of this game. And I bounced off it pretty quickly. I also don't really like the map designs either. Like, there's speculation in the community that the maps were designed for battle royale, and that this Battlefield game was originally going to be a battle royale game, because they do have this sort of disjointed feel about them. They're very, very flat,
Yes.
weirdly, and they have
Yeah.
like little pockets of like locations. Like, if you look at them from a bird's eye view, they are a bit battle royale-ish, like with the random rocket whacked in the middle for no real reason, and there's no cover anywhere, and so like the play is very vehicle heavy. I find, like, you have to sort of you have to play in a tank to get anywhere, because if you just like there's no cover to hide behind if you're traveling between locations. So there's a lot of issues with it from a design perspective. And hopefully with Vince running Battlefield now, he'll have the clout to push back and be like, you know what? Actually, no, this is bad because there's no cover. Like, how do you expect a soldier to get from A to B without getting murdered by tanks and snipers along the way? If there's no vehicles available. Um, in all the past Battlefields, like, we're nowhere near this flat.
No, I'm glad
The
you
one in
bring this up,
July.
because I remember playing a lot of these maps and feeling the same way. When I'm in a vehicle, which granted in Battlefield is some of the most fun, is being in the vehicle. It feels good. You're bombing down the hills in the Jeep. You got your buddies in the passenger seat, or you're flying a jet, or you're flying a helicopter. All that stuff feels epic. But when you're walking or running through the battlefield, it felt like such a slog. And again, I'm not great at Battlefield, so I'm not going to say, I'm not going to discredit the fact that I'm just not that good, but I was just constantly sniped in every map. And I just couldn't tell where it was, because like you said, it's so flat. I had no idea where I was being shot from, and I felt like I had nowhere to hide when I was being shot. I just had to die and respawn and die and respawn. And after a couple hours of that, I was pretty done. I was pretty done.
Yeah. It's the maps are horrible. They're absolutely terrible, and it feels like there's not that many of them either. Like, I don't know. It just feels like a very flat, uninspired game that had been rushed out. And yeah, you can blame COVID maybe. Like maybe COVID's to blame, but if COVID's to blame, they're not very forthcoming about that fact because they don't want to admit that COVID could cause a problem to game development because it'll spook their shareholders. You know,
Yeah.
if they start linking COVID to game development, every time a new variant is announced, it will cause their stock price to drop, and they don't want that, which is why they try hard to downplay the effect that COVID has on game development. But from developers I've spoken to, it has a pretty big effect on game
Yeah.
development. But they don't say that because they don't want to scare their shareholders. But um, so hopefully Vince can sort the game out and sort of have the political clout to say this hurts Battlefield. Yeah, maybe you'll make some money out of a few whales, but you'll kill the franchise in the process. Like Call of Duty's like started to decline now because it's got to a point where people are fed up of all the crap that Activision have been putting into it. Like even the Call of Duty diehards are starting to get tired of Call of Duty. The fact that this Call of Duty sold worse than like the last several Call of Duties is really starting to show a general a general trend of decline, you know. But unlike Activision, EA at least has Vince Zampella, who is a proven track record of making platforms that do make a ton of money. You just have to sort of rein that greed in a bit and actually make a good game. But increasingly, I wonder if these companies like EA, Ubisoft, Take-Two, and Activision, increasingly, I wonder, are they even capable of this anymore? Like I tweeted out again the other day, like all these big publishers feel completely rudderless. Like Ubisoft announced like 50,000 battle royale games. I don't even remember the names of half of them. They decided Division 2 wasn't worth developing anymore, so they abandoned it. And then later on, they were like, "Oh shit, maybe we shouldn't have abandoned it." And now they've announced a new expansion for Division 2 because they realize like making another division is probably not a great idea for it. It's so weird, like how none of these companies seem to be executing that well lately. And now we've heard that Far Cry and Assassin's Creed are going to be service games next. Please,
It's
please, man, I'm so tired of this crap.
and I think it really comes down to is a lot of these companies are losing key figures. Like you talk about EA having Vince, and that is a huge boon for them. But a lot of these people who have worked for these legacy publishers, Activision, Take Two, Ubisoft, they're leaving. They're going other places because they either are not being treated the way that they want to be treated, or they are forced to make decisions that is turning their own fan base against them. Can you imagine spending years and years of your life working on a game, putting all this energy, putting all this effort into making sure it's a great game, and then having a publisher step in and say, you have to do this. And that decision causes all this backlash. So this game releases, it comes out, you've poured so much energy into it, and all your fans now are online hating you for this game because of a
Yeah,
decision that's completely out of your hands. Like that has got to
and it's funny
so
because
ugh.
like Activision and EA, they will tie bonuses to the performance of a game. And if you don't hit those bonuses, those performance levels, you won't get your bonuses. While at the same time, the reason you didn't hit those performance bonuses is because of decisions that were made above your head. You know, it's horrible, and it's no wonder that a lot of these developers, like Dan Houser from Take Two, has gone off and made his own studio, and like Mike Morhaim's left Activision and made his own studio, left Blizzard and made a new studio, and you've got uh the guy from BioWare, his name I can't remember off the top of my head. The chap who joined Microsoft for a bit and then he went back to EA. And then he's gone off and made his own indie studio. Like so all the creative talent in the industry is actively leaving publishers because of how shit they are and how bad they treat their staff and how bad they interfere with game development, all while chasing this imaginary gold pot at the end of a development rainbow that looks suspiciously like a Fortnite llama pinata thing, you know. So I'm just really sick of all these devs. And like I've been playing Dark Souls recently. First time for me. And it's so nice to actually play a real video game mechanic. No loot boxes, no monetization model beyond some like expansion packs like the old days, you know? It's so nice to play a pure video game again. It's it gets to the point where you always forget what that looks like at a AAA level. It's so weird, you know? So,
It is
yeah.
weird. Obviously,
Am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
I mean, we do from time to time. We keep it pretty PG mostly, but
I'll bleep it out on the audio version.
oh yeah, no,
It's
it's all good. We've
it's the
we've
timestamp there.
but yeah, it's
Oh, man.
I understand with multiplayer games, obviously, if you want a game to continue growing and evolving and adding content, you have to monetize it. You have to find a way to keep money coming into the game to justify the cost of developing for the game. But like you mentioned, Fortnite was this golden goose, just dumping out money that people could not fathom. The amount of money that Fortnite was making, people couldn't wrap their head around why or how this PUBG ripoff, this blatant copy of PUBG, exploded into the phenomenon that it was and was making so much money. And so everyone was looking at their strategy and saying, we need to do this. Because not only are people engaging with Fortnite and playing Fortnite, people are excited to spend money on Fortnite. Like they have people excited to buy the battle pass, excited to pay $25 to look like Master Chief. Like people were excited to pay money, and when you can get people excited to put additional money into your game, that is the ultimate place to be when you're a big publisher. Unfortunately, like you said, a lot of these people weren't focusing on the fundamentals of what makes the game fun. And so you had these mediocre games that were half designed to be a good game and half designed to drive revenue, just falling in this ugly middle ground where nobody wants to play it and therefore nobody's going to spend money on it. So they are just losing money hand over fist on these projects designed to make money. And I think ultimately your first focus should be making a good game. And if you can make a good game and you can ship a good game, people are going to be more willing to give you money for more of it. But if the game is not great out of the gate, people are going to move on with their lives. Like me with Battlefield. Will I ever come back? I don't think so. I don't think I'll ever come back to Battlefield 2042 because there will be other things to fill my time. And I'm tired of this world where, first impressions don't matter at all, because they do. They are a big deal. Sure, we've seen Sea of Thieves, prime example of a game that a lot of people had a lot of problems with out of the gate. That game is in an incredible place now. No Man's Sky, another infamously bad launch that is in a great place now. But that can't be the norm. That can't be the norm for every single multiplayer game, because I just don't have the energy to invest that in every single game that comes out. And I'm not going to come back to every single game in a year and be like, okay, now it's cool, because it's just exhausting. Maybe I'm just an old-fashioned gamer, but I just don't have the energy to keep coming back to all these games that burned me at launch.
Yeah, it's like I've been literally wondering because I reviewed Far Cry 6 recently, and for me, like, I mean, if you enjoy Far Cry, then great. But like, I'd reviewed Watch Dogs Legion and Far Cry, and then Assassin's Creed, and for me, I started to feel like all of Ubisoft's games are basically the same. Like you go to a tower, you unlock stuff in the area, and it doesn't feel like it's designed for fun. It feels like it's designed for grind and engagement. But Far
Uh-huh.
Cry 6, I thought the writing was really bad. Like even though like they had the Breaking Bad dude as the villain who's admittedly excellent, he, even despite his acting skills, he couldn't cut through how bland the plot was for me. And it's always the same story beats with Ubisoft. It's like human trafficking this, human experimentation that. They had all those same story beats were in Watch Dogs Legion as well, and it just becomes this sort of amorphous, homogenistic blob of like, are you just making a game or are you just making a factory line product? Far Cry 6 actually like really depressed me. I had to constantly think myself out of the game and think, well, how would I feel if I was playing Far Cry for the first time? Because if you play Far Cry for the first time, it's a great game.
Yeah.
But the problem
Yeah.
is, I've played this game a million times before from Ubisoft, so it's taken Dark Souls to shake me out of that. and made me realize that the great games still do exist. And maybe they haven't come out this year.
Ugh.
Maybe they came out a long time ago. Maybe they're not coming from AAA devs. Maybe they're coming from indie devs
Mm.
who actually care about the art, you know, and it's fine, you know. If all these AAA publishers, if all they want to make is like cookie cutter monetized crap, there's a whole world of indie games out there and double A games and other genres to explore, you know. Fine, I won't play Battlefield 2042. I'll go and play Dark Souls from 10 years ago because I never really given it a fair shake, you know. I always like got stuck or like didn't understand anything what I was doing. All it took was a few pointers from my brother to really for Dark Souls to click for me. And then it's like, oh yeah, that's what a video game feels like. You know, it's weird.
Yeah. Well, let's
It's
transition
really
right
weird.
into it then, because a big crux of today is talking about your newfound love for Dark Souls. Because anyone who listens to this show, anyone who knows me, knows I love From Software. I love Dark Souls. I love Bloodborne. I love Sekiro. Some of my favorite games of all time are Dark Souls. Dark Souls 3, I have said, is probably my favorite RPG ever made, and I would confidently say it is one of the best, easily one of the 5 best RPGs of all time. Um, and I'm seeing you after, kind of being, a critic or uninterested in Dark Souls for all these years, come out of the woodworks and say, you said you love Dark Souls. You said
I love it.
you're
I
10,
absolutely
10 years late to the party, but now something has clicked and you love Dark Souls. So explain this journey. How many times before now have you tried a Dark Souls game?
I've tried to get into Dark Souls 1 at least maybe 3 or 4 times over the last 10 years. And it always plays out the same way. I sort of get through the undead burg or whatever it's called, and I kill the Minotaur dude on the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's just like, now where the hell do I go? And I go one way and then get killed by like it just felt like around every corner there was something that was gonna one shot you. And that's kind of like my mentality about it. I was of the feeling that it was hard for the sake of being hard, but it's really not. And it took me being addicted to Monster Hunter World to really get Dark Souls, funnily enough. So like when Monster Hunter World came out, um, I didn't get that either at first, but there's like a ton of content online about like all the different weapons in Monster Hunter because like Monster Hunter doesn't have character classes, but the way the game plays depends heavily on what weapon you pick.
Mm-hmm.
And someone was just like to me, well, if you want, choose the weapon that looks the coolest, and then look up a YouTube guide on how to use it. So I did that, and then instantaneously, I just fell in love with Monster Hunter. Like, a Monster Hunter, I feel shares a lot of common DNA with Dark Souls.
I
It's got
agree.
like it's got the huge badass monsters, the way stamina works, the way you sort of approach it, almost like a fighting game. In the sense you have to think about iframes when you're dodging, and you have to think about how many animation frames your attack is going to get off before the monster slaps you in the face. You have to think about it that way. And I did go on and I played like Monster Hunter World for like hundreds of hours, and I like on that Xbox Museum thing it says Monster Hunter World is my most played game of all time on Xbox, which is not surprising at all. Um, so absolutely loved it. And then when I came to play Dark Souls again this time, um, I don't know what it was, but I was playing it more like it was Monster Hunter, and it was like, oh my god, I get this game now. I get it now. And like enemies that absolutely destroyed me 10 years ago on the Xbox 360, I was killing them with relative ease because I was thinking about it more like Monster Hunter, like that Dark Knight dude in downstairs in the Undead Burg. Like I always wanted to kill that guy, but I never could for some reason because I was trying to play it like it was a hack and slash or something, like Devil May Cry or something like that. You got a sword, you hack and slash, whatever. But you can't approach it like that. And now like I can kill those Dark Knights without even getting hit, and it's like super easy, and it's not even vaguely stressful. And once you cut through all the mythology about Dark Souls being a super super hard game, and just sort of you can play it like more relaxed. You know, it's just a stunning, stunning game. Like I always loved the aesthetic of the game, the crazy monsters, the bleak and depressing environment is like exactly my cup of tea, you know. And I killed the was it the gulping gasping dragon, the gulping
Gaping
dragon,
dragon. Yeah.
gaping dragon. Gaping
Yeah.
dragon, I killed him last night live on stream. Took like 4 tries or something. And it was just like Monster Hunter. Even down to like being tripped by the monster on his toes. Even that comes out of Monster Hunter, you know. And it was just amazing. And I killed this dragon. And I just felt so good. And I'm sitting there talking about it and thinking about that's what a video game is to me. It's just a pure experience, and you're fully in the game. You're not being marketed to. You're not being, you know, buy the battle pass. Like as soon as you open the game up, you're being bombarded with ads to spend more money. You know, it's a pure video game, and it feels like it almost feels like these kind of experiences are going to end up being niche because the younger generation they've grown up with crap like battle passes. They've grown up with microtransactions, and to them it's normal. To them it's like spend £40 on a video game, 50, £60 on a video game. That's ridiculous. Fortnite's free. Why would I spend money on that? You know, and like it's sad almost. All these kids are on like Roblox and games like this, and these experiences like Dark Souls, and they're becoming increasingly rare, you know, and it's sad. But it does seem like there's a lot of AA developers putting out similar games like I think what's it called, Mortal Soul or something.
Mortal Shell.
Mortal Shell. Mortal Shell is supposedly superficially similar to Dark Souls, Souls-like kind of game, and it hit Game Pass recently. So, you know, there's this whole world that's kind of opened up to me now. Now that I'm approaching Dark Souls in a different way, but it's just clear how much of a special game it is,
You're
and the
right.
fact that I've
You're
tried it
100%
multiple
right.
times over the years, you know, yeah,
It's
it's special.
Dark Souls has got a really bad reputation because of a lot of obnoxious people who like Dark Souls because it is hard. Dark Souls is a hard game, like Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is tough. So I'm not going to say get good, whatever, that the game's easy, because it's not really designed to be easy, but it's designed to make you aware. It's designed to make you immersed in this world so that you can't just run through and mindlessly hack and slash, because that's not what this is. You got to be aware of what's around the corner. You got to be aware of an enemy's attacks, because you might think you have them figured out, and then they're going to pull some ridiculous move out of their hat and just grab you and swallow you whole. And there's a lot of subtlety
I
and
found that the hard way.
yeah, there's so much subtlety and nuance to every encounter. Every enemy feels exciting. Every enemy is interesting, and you never know when, you know, something's going to go wrong. And Dark Souls, again, you bring up excellent points about this being a game that you can just enjoy for the game itself. You can get immersed. You can immerse yourself in the world, the lore, the monsters, and it is a pure video game, and it's about playing the game. It's about the moment to moment action, and it's not about all these arbitrary things that we have to put in a game for engagement. I engage with Dark Souls because I love Dark Souls and I want to play this game. I don't engage with it because I need to do X amount of things per week to get X item, or I have to, you know, spend X number of hours online to earn this thing. I just play the game because I love it. And I find myself going back to Dark Souls 3 over and over and over. Anytime there's a lull and I'm not sure what I want to play, I come back to Dark Souls because it is such a genuinely great experience. And I hear people tell me all the time that, you know, Dark Souls is niche, that Elden Ring is going to be niche. And I don't want that to be the case. I don't want Elden Ring to be niche. I want anyone who is excited about RPGs to play Elden Ring, because From Software gets what makes gaming so special. They really, really do. And they are, you know, unapologetic in their game design, and there's separate conversations we can have about accessibility and ease of difficulty and all that stuff. But when it comes to the fundamental mechanics and the fundamental passion of game development, I think From Software is one of the most talented developers of modern gaming by a huge margin. So to hear you champion all these things that I love about Dark Souls, that a lot of people have been, you know, basically spewing ad nauseum about Dark Souls and From Software for years, it's not just fluff. It's not just BS. there's something special. There's something undeniably special about Dark Souls and From Software, and it's not about the difficulty. For me, difficulty is such a small piece of this equation. There are so many other things that outweigh the difficulty of Dark Souls. So it bums me out when people say that Dark Souls is just hard for the sake of being hard, or Dark Souls is too hard.
It's really not. You have to think about it differently. Like, I think people talk about difficulty in Dark Souls and games like this, but it's really not difficulty per se. It's more like you have to think of it almost like a puzzle. Like if puzzles are a binary thing. You either solve the puzzle or you don't. You fail. And like every combat scenario in Dark Souls and Monster Hunter almost plays out a bit like a puzzle. There are times where like reaction speed comes into play, sure, but you know, maybe something like an accessibility mode instead. Not don't call it an easy mode, call it accessibility mode, where like the necessity to have such high reactions is diminished a little bit for people who maybe can't access a controller as easily as
Yeah.
regular folk or whatever. Because it's not about the fact you die. That's not the problem. Because once you learn the how your weapons move and how the enemy's weapons move, you approach it more like a puzzle. It's like, okay, after they've done that attack, it gives me an opening to do this attack. And then it becomes really easy because the enemies, they die almost as quick as you do, for the most part. So it's almost like it is more like a fighting game, which is like, do you say like, how can you make a fighting game have like an easy mode in competitive play? You can't really, because you're playing against another human. So like you really just have to sort of, the conversation around Dark Souls is almost a misnomer because it sort of it it just sort of emphasizes the word difficulty, but it's a fair game. It gives you a lot of it gives you a lot of ways to make it easier for yourself. Like there are like guides online you can look up which give you access to weapons early, and they can sort of teach you how to, you know, better approach the combat and stuff like that. I'm trying to play it with minimal help at the moment because some of the thrill is the discovery, like seeing the
Hmm.
crazy monsters for the first time. But if you play it with a guide, at least like a basic beginner's guide for like, or a basic weapons guide, like for example, look up how to use a claymore, for example, or whatever, and then learn how to use the claymore, you'll have a much easier time than just assuming I'm failing because it's difficult. Because honestly, now that it's clicked for me, I'm not finding it that difficult. You know, like the gaping dragon. What's his name? Gaping dragon,
Yeah,
right?
Gaping Dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, like so it took me like 4 or 5 attempts to kill the gaping dragon. But there's been bosses like in games that are regarded easy or don't have such a stigma of difficulty around them where there will be a boss that'll take a few times to kill. I think like I think it's is it Gears 5 where you fight Gears 5 you fight like a super berserker at some point. That's like a boss fight. I think that boss took me like 3 tries to figure out what the solution to killing it was, you know. And like Monster Hunter's like that too, in that every fight you do in Monster Hunter is high stakes because
Exactly.
every fight is a boss, basically. And if you approach Monster Hunter, Dark Souls in the same way, like every fight is high stakes. If it isn't high stakes, the whole point of the game is lost. Because if you can just go through and just kill everything, there's not a hugely cinematic story to fall back on and stuff like that. So I think like it's interesting as now that I've at least some experience with Dark Souls, how the narrative on difficulties changed for me a little bit, you know, because I always felt like if they just made it super easy, the whole point of the game would be lost. But I do think there is like room for an accessibility mode where like enemies maybe have like an extra few animation frames before they land their attacks or whatever, but they still hit as hard. So because if you don't die instantly, the whole point of having to learn the attacks doesn't make sense. If you can just hack and slash your way through the whole game, like Diablo, then there's the game almost has no point. Like it is, you have to approach it like almost like a fighting game, and in that it's just magic.
Yeah,
Doing the gaming game
it's
was just magic. It's my favorite experience of like the last year, probably in
oh,
gaming. It's
yeah,
hilarious.
it's one of those things where Dark Souls is action. Dark Souls, unlike other RPGs like The Witcher or Mass Effect even, there's a lot of heavy story moments that push things along for you. Dark Souls is about the exploration, it's about the combat. So that is why the combat is so kind of unrelenting for some people, is because that is what is moving things along. That is how you progress. That is how you learn, is overcoming these challenges and overcoming these obstacles. And Dark Souls has done a better job in later entries like Dark Souls 3 and what I tried of Elden Ring, of providing accessibility through gameplay options. So in Elden Ring, you're going to be able to summon basically spirit companions to help you out. So in Dark Souls, especially the later ones, Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne, you get overwhelmed a lot and you can have 4 or 5 enemies basically attacking you at the same time if you're not careful. Elden Ring will allow you to summon like 5 spirit companions at the same time. So you can focus on one enemy off to the right, and you can have your spirit companions draw the aggro for you. So if you're a caster, you can use them to draw aggro, you can sit in the back and you can cast, and that will probably make the game a little bit easier, is you're going to have someone to take that pressure off you, take that heat off you. And I think Elden Ring is going to be their most accessible in that sense, as you have options for approaching fights that you didn't have previously. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's amazing hearing you kind of share this experience with it, because again, I've talked about it for years and years, and a lot of people have kind of shared that as well. And again, the difficulty has dominated every single aspect of the conversation surrounding Dark Souls, and it's disappointing because there's so much more to this game than the difficulty. The difficulty is, like I said, such a small piece of the overall pie, and I'm glad you're just diving in, dude. Just really getting after. So you gonna do 2 and 3 after you beat Dark Souls 1?
Yeah, I'm gonna go through all of them, and then like if I've actually been thinking, man, I love this so much. I might even end up getting a PlayStation for Bloodborne as well.
Yeah.
Now Bloodborne's probably gonna come
Mm.
to PC anyway, so maybe I'll hold off on that. But I don't know. But yeah, it's been an awesome experience.
All right, I'm gonna get to some super chats here, get all caught up. We got Yodani, who says, nice to have premier meta influencer Jez on. You're a premier meta influencer, dude.
Nah,
You in Zuck's pocket? What's up?"
nah. Someone sent me an email like, "Dear influencer, we're inviting you to become part of our brand new platform, Metafluencer, for the first metaverse platform for influencers," or some bullshit.
Oh,
Oh my
but
god.
oh. Harji Chani asks,
Yeah,
should
so
Xbox
cringe.
look at Activision for acquisitions? What moves would actually fix the mess they're in? Would be a project for Xbox, but they're probably the only ones that could buy them. If I'm Xbox, I'm not touching Activision with a 500-foot pole right now, which I think is kind of one of the
Man,
reasons they're not interested in Ubisoft. Those allegations, the workplace culture, all that stuff is not going to be worked out overnight. And if Xbox buys Activision, it's they would have to prove so quickly that they are absolutely and adamantly correcting all of the management issues. They would have to basically fire every single leadership position from Activision and start over. If it, and that's, I think, the only way that you could ever have any sort of meaningful change if they were to acquire them.
it's complicated because like Activision does have like a huge amount of great IP, and they do have like a really powerful mobile division as well in King. Call of Duty Mobile is huge,
Mm-hmm.
and all the King mobile games, Candy Crush, that is King, right? Candy Crush, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And Microsoft's footprint in mobile is not great right now, and that's a problem. They've only got Minecraft and basically nothing else. Um, but it's also like, man, do they really want to take on a franchise that's potentially in decline in Call of Duty? Do they really want to take on Blizzard's projects, which all seem to be in development hell? Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2, announcing Overwatch 2 when they did was such a mistake. Like, where even is that game? It lost its lead developer, Jeff Kaplan. Nightmare scenario for Overwatch 2. Like Overwatch 1, instead of keeping Overwatch 1 going, they've basically abandoned the game. So it's just a nightmare. You know, they've got a whole Blizzard is a total mess, shambles right now, omni shambles you'd call it. I would call it. So while I think like there is potential there for like Phil to come in and fix all the management infrastructure and clean it up, they'd be inheriting a huge amount of issues there. So
Hmm.
I think there is that dream though of like having regular Warcraft RTS releases as part of World's Edge or something like that. It'd be amazing. You could have World's Edge growing like Paradox, and they do Age of Empires, they do StarCraft, they do Warcraft, and they do like Age of Mythology, and maybe Halo Wars as well. And they've just got like 5 strategy franchises, just keeping everyone busy. Um, I like that imaginary idea. That'll probably never happen, but alas, Age of Empires 4 did pretty well. So I'm hearing it's doing pretty
Yeah,
good.
and I think a lot of people when they think of Activision, they think of those great IP, like Blizzard in particular. You have Warcraft, you have Diablo, you have Overwatch. So there are some great IP that would come with that deal, but I think again, for a company of that size, there are so many employees, there's so much baggage that it would be such an undertaking to try to bring all that in, merge it with the Xbox culture while simultaneously figuring out like where the problems lie with everyone you're bringing into that. And yeah, I think it's honestly, if you're Xbox, I think it's more worth than it's work, or more work than
Yeah.
it's worth, because those IP are huge and they're valuable. But oh man, that is
Yeah.
an astronomical feat. Brian
No,
Hopkins says,
I,
"Oh, sorry." Go
I was just gonna say I need to wrap up somewhat soon because I gotta have dinner before the next podcast. I haven't
Yeah.
eaten yet.
Yeah, you got
So
all right. I'm gonna blast through
yeah.
these. We're gonna wrap it up. Brian Hopkins, Vince should shelf Battlefield and use the team to make Titanfall 3. Maybe one day.
I yeah. I I wrote an article the other day about Titanfall. Like Titanfall 1 is another one of those games that's kind of like I said what I said earlier about Dark Souls. It's just a pure video game, Titanfall 1. Like no huge amount of monetization, nothing obnoxious anyway. And it was just a great video game, pure video game, and it's gone, just removed from storefronts. And probably won't be long till the servers get turned off as well because EA gonna EA, right? They've done the
Yeah.
same to Titanfall 2,
Yep.
abandoned basically,
All right.
abandoned to hackers and all kinds of crap. So I'd love to see Titanfall 3. I'd love to see that franchise given the respect it deserves by EA, but EA sucks. So you just can't expect anything good from them. You just can't. I don't.
Art RDX Son of Fett says no mini fridge in Canada. Sad face. Did you get a mini fridge,
That
Jez?
sucks.
Did you
I
did you
did
lock
not.
one? Okay.
I didn't. I have nowhere to put it, really. If I want a fridge here, I just put something on the windowsill. If I want to cool this off, put it on the windowsill. It'll be frozen by the morning. So not really fair.
Danger Man 1337 says Battlefield 2042's core gameplay meshes poorly with 128 players. I saw some other people in the chat saying that the game doesn't seem like it was designed for 128 players.
Yeah, I kind of feel that too. Like the maps are huge. It feels like they made these huge maps with battle royale in mind. Like I can't really think of any other way of thinking it. Because in battle royale, there are like you have these sorts of huge maps, and then you have like pockets of action, and the whole point of battle royale is that you have this stress of not knowing who's out there.
Mm-hmm.
But in Battlefield 2042, it's just pure chaos. Like even like the only fun I've been able to have in Battlefield 2042 is in their sort of rush mode. I don't know what they call it. Is it breakthrough or something? Breakout? I don't know. I don't know what they call it. It's
Yeah.
like their linear battle mode where it's like you have to sort of push forward. And that's what I always used to play in the old Battlefields too. Like I prefer that gameplay because you know where the enemy's coming from in that context. And it feels like it plays a little bit better, but at the same time it doesn't. Because you have like instead of like maybe 3 or 4 medics stacking medic crates, you have like 10 or more medics stacking medic crates, all in a tiny little choke point. And I don't know, like on the one hand, like the chaos felt good to start with, and it's like, yeah, look at all this chaos. But then at the same time, it's like, man, it just feels messy and exhaustive. And a lot of the old play styles from Battlefield 1 and 3 and 4 and even like Bad Company 2. Like it just doesn't work the same way. They've really screwed with the feel of the game in loads of different ways, and it sucks. It really does suck.
Yeah, I do agree that something feels off overall with the player count and that sense of action, because yeah, Battlefield's always been known for chaotic moments, but I've always felt some sense of control with previous Battlefields, where if I knew where the chaos was happening, I could kind of work my way around it or work my way into it. But in this, it just feels like chaos that I have no control in. I'm just along for the ride,
Yeah.
and if I get blown up, I have no control over that whatsoever. And that feeling in a video game kind of sucks, I think.
You get that out of Call of Duty, because Call of Duty's respawn system is so frustrating, because it's like it's algorithmic, and I do feel like if like if a player's playing poorly and they've been killed multiple times, Activision will spawn them behind people to try and give them a kill. I have this conspiracy theory that the algorithm for Call of Duty spawning is designed to try and help people out, but sometimes it just feels kind of unfair. And that sort of chaos where enemies are coming from every direction and you've got no sense of where anyone is, that's a Call of Duty thing. And I think because of the way Battlefield 2042 has designed its maps, designed its player count, and also like some of the abilities, like the wingsuit, for example, people can just fly really fast over and flank you. And like that sort of getting flanked constantly, that was something that was unique to Call of Duty, I felt, back in the day. And not so much Battlefield. Like I always prefer Battlefield because like it was almost like two lines of people, like Metro, for example, in Battlefield 3 and 4. The Metro map, I love that map. It's a big, massive tunnel. One enemy at one end, the other enemy at the other end. You know where everyone is. You know, there's no wingsuit, so you can fly over people and get behind them. There's no arbitrary spawning rules where everyone spawns behind so they can get a free kill. It was just pure, unadulterated awesome. But it just feels like there hasn't been any thought gone into Battlefield 2042 and how some of the changes they've made have upset the feel of the game. But
Yeah,
it
I
is
mean,
what it is.
exactly. Here's to hoping they address that feedback and they give us some more nuanced maps. I know they're going to be adding a 64-player mode here soon, so even people who are on Series X, PS5, and PC can opt into the 64-player mode, which hopefully will eliminate some of those complaints that people have about the chaos of 128 players. Faisal 007 is here for violence, it seems. It seems there's a lot of drama around this year's Game Awards, and I love it. I want violence. Jez Cam review is perfect. The Glitch Doctor says, it's so funny to see the excited, he finally gets it look on Miles's face while Jez is talking about the greatness of Dark Souls. You know, I don't want to take full credit for Jez liking Dark Souls, but I will take most of the credit.
Brendan Lowry's actually helped me a lot as well.
I know our team is very Souls centric outside of Jez. There's Brendan who loves Souls. There's Sam who loves Souls. There's myself who loves Souls. And then there was been Jez, the outlier who doesn't love Souls. And you know, we gotta fill those gaps. Gotta fill those.
It's really sad because it always looked like a game that I should like, and I just didn't get it for some reason. But now I do.
You're not the only one. Like I've talked to so many people who felt the same way. Like I feel like this is something I should like. I don't get why I don't like it. And I will say, like, it took me a few tries before it really clicked, because I played Demon Souls at launch on the PS3, and I was like, yo, what is this? What is this game? This is kind of miserable. Like, I love the combat, I love the creature design, but I was not feeling it. I did not beat Demon Souls initially at launch. And then Dark Souls came out on 360, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's dive in. I got really deep. I got to this basically wall in the game, a literal like kind of fog wall that wouldn't dissipate. Had no idea where to go. Had no idea what to do. I was in this molten magma hell with, you know, the Minotaur boss from the bridge. There's just like 5 of them wandering around in the lava. And I'm like, what is this game, dude? This is stupid. So I put Dark Souls down, and then a year goes by and I had this urge to revisit it because despite the fact that I was frustrated, I didn't know where to go, there was something about it that I wanted to come back to. Came back to Dark Souls and then beat it the second go. And then since then, Dark Souls 2, played that at launch. Dark Souls 2 was kind of a mess at launch, but Dark Souls 2 is the game where they said, this is going to be hard for the sake of being hard. Because it was designed by a different team and they kind of pandered to some of the cheap insta-kills, enemies pushing you off ledges. There was a lot of annoying, obnoxious things in Dark Souls 2. So that is the worst one by far. Dark Souls 2, not a bad game, still really like it, but is the worst Dark Souls game by a lot because of those stupid design decisions. Scholar of the First Sin, which was kind of the reimagining, re-release of it, fixes a lot of those, so it is a much better experience. But Dark Souls 2...
Good to know.
Strap in, boy. Strap in for a ride. Don Otaku says, how you guys feel about Dark Souls is exactly how I feel about Breath of the Wild, besides the difficulty. It's my favorite game of all time, for sure. That's why you should be hyped for Elden Ring, because Elden Ring, as corny and as stupid and as cliche as this sounds, is the Breath of the Wild of Dark Souls. And I
need to try Breath of the Wild, man. Everyone talks about it.
You've never played it? Like, ever?
I own it. I bought it when it was on sale or something, like a couple of years ago. I bought it, or last year or something. But I've never played it. I never got around to it or something. So like that's in my backlog too. Like all these crappy AAA games from publishers are letting me tap my backlog a little bit.
Yeah, hit Breath of the Wild. It is another really special game, and we're seeing so many teams influenced by Breath of the Wild. The Grounded team has cited inspirations from Breath of the Wild. The God of War team has cited Breath of the Wild for inspiration. So a lot of the biggest, most influential games coming out have been influenced by Breath of the Wild. So it is a really, really special experience, especially considering how old The Legend of Zelda is. For a franchise that's been around that long to come out and basically reinvent the wheel, not only reinvent itself, but reinvent what an open world game is, you got to give them props. You just got to.
I've never actually completed a Zelda game. Never completed one.
Not. We'll save that for a different day.
I wasn't a Nintendo kid, man. I was a Sega kid, so it's kind of missed me by a bit.
Okay, that explains a lot. Sega kids. Okay. Don Otaku says, also first time listening live, but love the show. Always catch up during the week. Don, appreciate you tuning in. The live shows, yeah, we try to incorporate. It started as a live show. Obviously, we have the podcast versions. We have the video on demand versions of it. But I do like the interaction with the live audience. Don Otaku, one more time, says, I will never watch the Xbox 2 again because Jez has never played Breath of the Wild, and I take that personally.
I can open it now if you want, just for a second, just to say that I played it.
Yeah, there you go. Say you go on Twitter and say, "Hey, I played Breath of the Wild. Don't see what the big deal is."
Oh dear.
All right, guys, we are going to wrap this up. It's been an amazing show. 2 hours and some time has flown by. Jez has got to go run to the Xbox 2 here very shortly. I'm going to be going to hang out with the squad over at Game On Daily. So we're both pulling double duty on some podcasts. Huge shout out to everyone who tuned in. Again, if you dig the show, hit that like button. If you were listening after the fact on podcast services, follow, subscribe, all of that good stuff. We have episode 50 next week. And I will remind everyone one more time that there is a really awesome guest that I am super stoked to sit down with. So if you are an Xbox fan, make sure you tune into episode 50 of Xbox Chaturdays. Jez, before we go, let all the amazing people here know where they can harass you for not playing Breath of the Wild.
You can harass me on Twitter at Jez Corden, JZCorden. And that's me. That's pretty much the only place I hang out. I don't have any other social media.
That's the place to be. All right, everyone, we are wrapping this up. Have a blessed Saturday, and I will catch you all next week.